Once again, I am your host, Sonali Fiske, and this is the Call to Sacred Activism. And I'm thrilled that you're here. This call is also brought to you in collaboration with the One Global Family Foundation. And today's topic and our guest speaker, Lena West, is going to be talking to us about so much I'm going to venture to say, but today's topic, Renaissance, returning sanctity and sovereignty to the online business world. And before you hear from our wonderful guest speaker, I want to tell you a little bit about her. Lena West shows women entrepreneurs how to discover their inner CEO and leverage that knowledge to build a business that loves them back. Known for her truth-telling, direct communication style and candor, she has helped thousands of women entrepreneurs build sustainable, freedom-based businesses. Lena says, what makes me different is not only do my clients receive some of the most relevant, actionable business growth tactics and strategies in the world, I can also uniquely identify with women CEOs. I know they need strategies that produce results, not just now, but right now. Lena's expertise also has been widely acknowledged. She's the winner of several business awards, among them BuzzFeed's Most Influential Influencers. I'm so thrilled to bring Lena West to you today, sisters. So welcome. And I invite you to, if you're feeling this, the energy of this call, you have a question for Lena, type it into the chat box. It's my joy to ask your question for you. So without further ado, welcome Lena West.
Hello, Sonali. How are you? Can you hear me? I hope you guys can hear me. Yes, you can hear me. Awesome. We can't hear you, Sonali. Thank you, Mercury retrograde. So I'm going to continue until Sonali jumps back in. She was fading out when she was doing the introduction, so possibly she got kicked off there. So first, I want to thank you so much, everyone, for showing up to this Zoom call. I really appreciate it. It's good to see faces that I know and see names that I know, and it's good to see all of you, Jill and Jaquette and Tanya and James Olivia. So thank you for being here for yourselves. Thank you for being here for me. I know that Sonali had initially wanted to talk about the Facebook post. I posted about 3 weeks ago, and it has been really quite a whirlwind since then, quite frankly. And basically what I did was I threw down the gauntlet and I said, no more of this abuse in the online business world of abusing people and making them feel like they're less than for not having $1 million business, and using terms like 6 and 7 figures to intimidate and railroad people, and taking terms like spirit-led and heart-centered and just running them into the ground and loading them up with negative vibration, and then deciding they're just gonna move on to the next thing. And I've been noticing it for a while. I'm not gonna lie, and I even started my Facebook post off with what's happened in the online business world for the past 10 years has been outright ridiculous. It's an embarrassment, and it doesn't have to be so. And I am, quite frankly, tired of it. I have been talking about this, and I have had other posts on Facebook. I've posted other things on Facebook and other places, and I've spoken about this before. And I also am tired of kind of talking about it. I'm one of these action-oriented people, and so I get tired of talking about it. I get tired of hearing the story around it, and I'm like, let's do something about it. So I wrote that post, and I honestly had no idea what was going to happen next, other than I was probably going to piss the right people off, and I was going to galvanize the right people. That I knew. And whenever I'm in that space, I know that that is my warrior energy coming up, my righteous anger coming up into place. And so I was like, well, as long as you feel like you're going to galvanize the right people and piss off the right people, then it's a go. And so I posted, and I don't even know how many comments, and I don't even know how many likes and shares, but it was hundreds of people liked and commented. And it really was a bit of a homecoming. I love how Sonali put it. She called it a bonfire. And I was like, yes, it is a bonfire. I loved that.
You are on fire, Lena.
I got tired of it. And so for those of you who heard Sonali's intro, my bio, this is what I do for a living. And so every single time I work with women, I have to take 2 or sometimes 3 months to unpack all of the conditioning and all of the abuse before we can get her to a point where she can build a business that loves her back. And I got sick of doing that. Not that I got sick of helping people and supporting women entrepreneurs. That's my life's work. But I just got tired of having to do the months and months of unpacking instead of them hitting the ground running. I got tired of hearing people talk about it and really not do much about it. And so here I am today, and I'm saying, you know what, this has got to stop. And I think that the first thing we need to think about, I know the first stop on this train for us has got to be talking about how these practices in the online business world, and what I mean by those practices are, again, gaslighting people, talking about 6 and 7 figures businesses, asking people to take mortgages out on their home to work with them, telling people that your net worth is your self-worth. I mean, just all of these really abusive tactics that are used to get people to buy into thousands of dollars of program and thousands of dollars for programs and coaching. And I'm saying, if your program was really all of that, you wouldn't have to trick people into it. They'd be signing up around the door. And I'm tired of it. I am sick of it. And so we need to first talk about how these types of practices affect Black and brown people. Because clearly I'm a Black and brown person, and we need to talk about it because it disproportionately affects Black and brown people. I'm focused on Black and brown women, but Black and brown people in general. And the reason we need to talk about it is because what ends up happening in the online business space is when you have a Black or brown person say, well, I'm going to take a mortgage out on my home. And when those millions don't start rolling in like that expert or that coach told you it was going to, what ends up happening is now we're facing foreclosure, right? Because typically Black and brown people don't have families that they can go to and say, hey, can I borrow $10,000 so that I can get ahead on my mortgage? Like, we're going to talk some real talk today. And this is why we're here, to talk about the real things that happen. What also happens is when the millions don't come rolling in, as inevitably they don't, what ends up happening also is we start to feel really bad about ourselves. We're told that it's our mindset and we're not really committed, and all of these things to make us feel badly about ourselves. We're told these things. We're told we're not committed. We're told we're not serious. We're told we have limiting beliefs. And listen, don't get me wrong. I believe that we have limiting beliefs sometimes. I believe that sometimes it is a mind state issue. I do believe that. But I also believe that's not 100% all the time. And we need to get real about this, and we need to start having this conversation about it. The other thing that ends up happening is when you don't have Black and brown people in successful businesses, what happens is the landscape is totally whitewashed, and you have Black and brown people getting advice, business advice, life coaching advice, doesn't matter whether it's business or personal advice, from someone who does not look like them. Now, that's not always the case. I mean, I have coaches who are white. I have coaches who are Black coaches. But my point is when Black and brown people don't have the option, because the Black and brown businesses have not been able to be successful because they're disproportionately affected by these business practices, what ends up happening is the landscape is whitewashed, and then I'm forced to, if I want coaching, to seek coaching from someone who doesn't look like me and probably will not understand my unique my unique sensibilities, my unique challenges, and things of that nature. And then we get the unintentional and the intentional bypassing and gaslighting, and we're all back in the same thing, you know, where we were before. And I'm saying that's the first stop on the train to realize how this is impacting this community in a major way, is to look at Black and brown people. Bill says, if a person has limiting beliefs, that's not the time to take their money. Amen.
Yes.
Absolutely. That is not the time to take their money. If you know, let me tell you something, and I promise to keep it totally real today. And I will tell you, there are loads of people who want to come into my mastermind program, and I turn away more people than I accept. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is because some people are not ready. It doesn't mean that they're bad people. It doesn't mean that they don't know what they're doing. It doesn't mean that they can never have a 6-figure or a 7-figure business. It means I am not going to be party to taking advantage of someone who has to decide whether they're going to pay me my monthly coaching fee or whether they're going to pay their mortgage. I'm not here for that. And I don't want that, because not all money is good money.
Lena, what you're saying, you're speaking to parts of me and the women I work with, mostly Black, Indigenous, women of color, who are feeling exhausted.
Yes.
At not knowing where that exhaustion is coming from, originating from, or blaming their own selves for that exhaustion, Lena. So you're speaking to parts of us that we haven't even understood or addressed ourselves. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. It will wear, as my friend Stacey Shelton says, it will wear you out, because you're told it's you. You're told the problem is you. You're told that if you were committed, you would find the money. Let's just, like I said, let's keep it all the way real today. If I don't have the $5,000 to work with somebody, how am I find some damn $5,000? Where am I going to find $5,000? Like, it doesn't, the things that they say doesn't even make sense. The things that they tell us to do, it doesn't even make sense. And I want to say, let's have the real conversation today so that we know what these abuses look like. If anyone tries to, if anyone says to you, well, you need to sign a non-disparagement agreement in order to work with me, that's a red flag.
Yes.
That is a red flag, because if you were, I have been coaching for 14 years full time, and I have never once asked anyone to sign a non-disparagement agreement. Never. Because if you're handling your business like you're supposed to be handling your business, you would have no need for a non-disparagement agreement. I'm just saying.
Yes. Lena, I don't even know. There's something coming out of my fingertips. I don't even know where to go with you. If you are those listening into this call, if you are feeling this, let us know. If you have a question for Lena, this is your chance. We've got the master right here live. So
Jack Cat says we're having this conversation on Equal Pay Day for Black women. See, I didn't even know that. That's how I know the universe loves exactly what's going on here. I did not even know that, and it's the day before Lionsgate. So let's get it. We got the energy supporting us. I love it.
So Lena, I'm going to go back to your Facebook post, because that's what started all this.
Yes.
You know, your hashtag, not one more day.
Not one more day.
It was a firm and clear boundary or line in the sand that you drew.
Yes.
And Lena, there are still so many, scarcity type mindsets, this greedy mindset that you're talking about that is still so pervasive in our online business spaces. And I'll be honest with you, Lena, this didn't come out in your post, but the transmission I received from what I read and heard is it's the perpetuation of more white supremacy in our online business spaces. Do you identify with that? Am I making any sense? Would you be willing to speak to that?
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense, and you're absolutely correct. Because what do you think happened? What do you think? What is the dynamic, the overarching dynamic that is present when a white coach asks a black or brown client to sign a non-disparagement agreement? That to me sounds like, shut up, go somewhere, your opinion and what your feedback is about my program or my offering or my work with you doesn't matter. And even if you don't like it, you can't say anything. It's a form of legal sorcery, of binding someone. And I'm not here for that. Like I said, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and even if someone says something about you or to you that is not true, if you've been doing the right thing the entire time, someone will say, nope, that's not exactly who that person is. This is my experience with this person. And they're good people. Maybe that's been your experience, but that's not who they are. And that's not my experience with them. So I think that if you're doing the right thing, you won't need to have this need to control everyone and everything. You know, that's privilege in action.
Absolutely.
I'm not feeling that. And it has, like I said, it hasn't felt good for me for the past 10 years. And I've literally been just watching it. And it's not getting any better. It's not getting any better. And finally, 3 weeks ago, I said, ya basta. That's it. It's over.
And why we're here. Kelly says, Lena, how do you suggest responding when someone says calling out this behavior is just jealousy from a less successful entrepreneur?
I love when they say, you're just jealous, or you're just jealous of that person. First of all, I wouldn't respond to that, right? I wouldn't. If someone doesn't know you well enough to know whether you're jealous or not, I wouldn't even respond to that, because they don't know you well enough to know whether you're jealous. So I wouldn't even give that any credence. But if you felt like you had to say something to respond, I would say, hey, take a look at my website, take a look at my social media posts, and you tell me, is that the vibe of a jealous person? Right? People can take a look at, I don't have to say anything. You can take a look at my Instagram when I do post there, but definitely my Facebook, and you'll understand exactly who I am, and you'll understand, like, that's not a jealous bone in my body. And quite frankly, 6 figures, 7 figures, I been did that years ago. So if anybody were to say to me, oh, well, I'm just jealous of them, just because I don't wear 7 figures on my sleeve does not mean that I'm jealous. So my answer would be different, but in general, I would say point them to other parts of your social media or your online presence where they can really understand who you are. And if it's not important, or if it's someone you don't know really well, I wouldn't even bother to defend myself, because there's no need to prove who you are. You know who you are.
You know what I love? One of many things I love about you and your process. When I asked you before, our audience doesn't know this, but I asked you if there's anything you wanted to promote or share at the end of this call in order to help you grow your audience. And your response was unequivocally, I just want to share my heart. I want to share my gift. And that is something that has touched me deeply through your post, because you wrote in your post that our webinars have become these, marketing tactics.
Yes.
That I feel like what you're trying to tell us is, let's come back to the love of simply sharing and teaching our craft and our gifts. Would you speak to a little bit about that, Lena? About actually
Absolutely.
Just doing this for the love of
community.
Yes.
For the love of connection, for the love of sharing. I mean, listen, there's nothing wrong with selling. So I don't want anyone to get the wrong impression. But why does every webinar have to sell? Why do we have to be selling at every single opportunity? Why is everything a sales opportunity? And it doesn't have to be. And I believe, and I know that there is another way. I think when when we have people who we think are established and 6 and 7 figure business owners telling us that our net worth is our self-worth, and they tell us that we should sell at every opportunity and ABS, always be selling, I think there's something that happens within a person, and especially if someone has been, if someone has experienced trauma, or if someone is got maybe some social anxiety, or they have some self-esteem challenges, or they have been experienced some type of abuse in the past, they're not as likely or readily to stand up for themselves. Not everybody is a Lena and gonna say, you know what, you can go kick rocks. Not everybody's gonna do that. And so I'm saying, how about we treat everyone the same? How about we treat everyone with love and grace and kindness and compassion from the gate, so that we don't have to figure out, well, I'm going to treat this person over here this way, and I'm going to treat this other person over here because they haven't experienced trauma. How about we be fair to everyone, and that way we won't have this problem. And I think that starts with generosity. It's birthed out of wanting to share. I can't tell you, and this, we've got to also now look at, how are we complicit in keeping this cycle of abuse going in this industry? Now, this is not that we're to blame or anything like that, so don't go there. I'm saying, whenever you have something happening, whenever there's some type of dynamic happening, it takes two to tango, right? And so I'm saying, what are we doing? I know that I am in a Facebook group, which I won't name, but earlier on this year, we realized, or it was either late last year, in that Facebook group, there was a bunch of people that realized that one person had swindled a bunch of us out of tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. One person. And you know why that is? Because there's something in us that says, well, I don't want to speak up and speak out because this person is going to sue me. Or I don't want to speak up and speak out against this person because they're popular. Or I don't want to speak up and speak out against this person because it's just me, it's my experience. Or I don't want to look stupid. Or I don't want to look like I don't want to look like I'm defaulting on my responsibilities and on my commitments, or I don't want to look like I got taken or I got taken advantage of. You know, it's really sad that we can't come together and teach and then sell when it's appropriate to sell. Not everything has to be a sale. But again, when we're being gaslit and we're told that our net worth is our self-worth,
oh, that's so damaging.
What are we supposed to get from that?
Right.
And people new to the industry, forget about if you've had trauma, forget about if you've had any type of abuse, or if you have self-esteem or self-love challenges. Forget about that for a moment. Let's put that to the side and let's talk about, well, what if you're new to this industry and you see that this person says that they're a 7-figure business owner and they've made 7 figures, and then all of a sudden you think, well, this is person, they must know what they're talking about because they're clearly the expert. And if they tell me that my net worth is my self-worth, well, maybe that's something that I need to consider because I've never thought about it. I've thought about it like that. Or maybe this is, I see every single time I'm on one of their webinars, they're selling something. I can't tell you how many people sent me an email, sent me an inbox message after I made that Facebook post and said, so what's your funnel? So what's your, you know, what's your email marketing sequence? You know how many emails those people who signed up from that post, you know how many emails they've gotten from me? 1. And it was to ask them to join us on this call today. 1.
Yep.
Not everything has to be about hustling and selling. And so what happens is we have these experts telling us on one hand, oh, don't hustle, ease and grace. And then every chance they get, they're selling, pushing. Right. And so they're not walking their talk. They're telling us one thing and they're doing something else, and I'm over it.
Woo.
Over it.
If you're feeling this, give us a high five or a thumbs up or a yes in the chat box so we know, or we're going to keep going on this track that we're on. If you have a question for Lena,
Somebody
please
had a question. I thought I
ask
saw it up
away.
here.
Actually,
I think it was Tina.
Yes. Tina
Yeah.
asks, would you like me to read it out loud for the benefit of everyone? Tina says, so Lena, in your opinion, do you believe all of this comes from capitalist, white supremacy, and patriarchal systems of oppression and abuse?
Yes and no. So I believe that it absolutely comes from a system of absolute abuse. Yes, yes. Some of it comes from white supremacy. Don't get me wrong, because I will not be the person to discount the impact of that, because that is what this country is built on, for those of us who are in the U.S., and that is what it is founded on. So absolutely, let us not trivialize the impact of that. But I also believe that it has to do with, as my colleague and friend Nicole Lewis-Keeber speaks about so eloquently and much better than I can. She talks about how trauma shows up in our business. And when we have unhealed trauma, it wants to make us accepted. It wants to make us feel accepted. And so when these gurus and these experts and these coaches tell us we should be doing one thing, we want to be accepted so badly because we're wounded. We want to be accepted, and so we go along to get along. We go along because we don't want to be embarrassed. We don't want them to call us out, you know. It's either that, or we do what a lot of times happens with trauma is we perpetuate that cycle by becoming abusers ourselves. That's how unhealed trauma shows up. I told you all I was going in today, and a lot of people may not agree with me, but the fact of the matter is this is how unhealed trauma shows up in our businesses. It shows up as either abusing other people, visiting that abuse on other people, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally visiting that abuse, or it shows up being abused over and over and over and over and over, because the part of you that is unhealed will attract a predator, because that's how predatory practices work.
Oh, Jill says, my head is going to fall off from nodding my agreement continually over here. I'm feeling you, Jill. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just getting out of the way for Lena I feel like Lena's channeling or something. I don't know. Takole, please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name, but they said the studies in epigenetics will start to show the effect of trauma from supremacy and slavery. It's a huge deal, not to mention individual, environmental, societal, and familial trauma.
Yes, and yes, and yes. I mean, it is so deep. When I explained this to someone, I was like, you don't understand. You know what I started doing, and I'm just going to keep it real. When I'm on Instagram and I see ads and every single person in the ad is white, I click hide it and I say it's not relevant. Because it's not relevant to me. Nothing about that is relevant to me. I don't see me. And I'm tired of that, right? We've got to start to talk about these things. When we don't talk and we don't have forums like this for us to unpack and discuss, what ends up happening is we either internalize it, we ignore it. Either way, no good comes from that. So absolutely, I believe that we've got to look at how does patriarchy, how does white supremacy, how do the isms, sexism, classism, how do all of that factor into this world, this online world that we've created for ourselves? I don't know about you, but I made my living in the online business space. Before that, I was doing consulting with Fortune 500 companies, but I made my living for the past 14 years in the online business world. And I've got to tell you, that's my home away from home. There are people online who I've never met in person, who I absolutely love and adore, who are very good friends of mine. And I think it's outrageous that we have to be in this space and constantly defend ourselves. And what I want to do is, like I said in my post, we're getting out our thesaurus and we're trying to figure out a different way to say what we want to say. And I'm saying we have been put in this box for 10 years of being shamed, of being abused, of being told we can't do 6 and 7 figures. You know what I would love? I would love to be able to tell people, listen, yes, I have a very successful business, and I'm not going to show you how I did it, because how I did it doesn't matter to you. It matters how you're going to do it. I would love to be able to say that in my marketing, because it would be the truth and I would be coming from a good place. But because I don't want to be lumped in with all of the other people who take advantage of people, I don't say that. I just say, well, I'll help you with your business, or something, more not as polarizing as the 6 and 7 figures thing. And I'm saying we're doing all of this song and dance around the words that we want to use, that we should be able to use. And I'm saying, let's start making them feel uncomfortable. We felt uncomfortable for at least the past 10 years. Let's start making them feel uncomfortable.
100%, Lena.
Let them start going to Word Hippo and figuring out new words to use. Let them be uncomfortable.
Lena, may I share something with you?
Yes.
One of the ways I've started to do what you had just said, rather setting up a firm boundary around creative collaborations and joint venture partnerships that are coming my way from the dominant race, is I absolutely require anti-racism education or some form of anti-racism work or understanding before I even consider partnering. Now, what are some parameters that we can put in place to help, join this train that has already left the station? What are some parameters and boundaries that we need to put in place to protect ourselves, Lena?
Let me just say this. I think it's really important for us to consider, what does remedy look like and what form it needs to take to affect change. And for me, that looks like empathy, it looks like educating people, and it also looks like equity, right? So equality is not equity. I think we all know that, but let's be clear, right? It's different. And so I believe that what we've got to do at this stage of the game to take those terms back, and I see some questions in the chat also about so how do we fix this? How do we get back? The thing is we've got to start using these terms. We've got to start using these terms, and not, because what has happened is the fear. If you're a 6-figure business owner, say it. Yes, it's going to turn some people off, but if enough of us start saying it again, and enough of the right people start saying it again and using these terms again, you know what they're counting on? They're counting on us to not use it. They're counting on them being able to monopolize those terms. That's what they're counting on. They're counting on us to stay quiet and keep looking for alternative ways of saying what we really want to say. That's what they're counting on. And I'm saying, let's stop giving it to them. Let's stop making their victories so easy for them. Let's start using these terms again. And instead of sitting in judgment of people who have been victims, like, oh, how could you get scammed again? And didn't that just happen to you last week? Instead of sitting in judgment of people, and instead of sitting in judgment of really good quality people who are using these terms, let's turn our gaze to the predators. Let's look at them now. Let's make them feel uncomfortable. Here's what I want to say. If anyone asks you to sign a non-disparagement agreement to work with them, don't do it. Find another coach. If you need to be, I promise you, I respond to all my emails. If someone has asked you to sign a non-disparagement agreement and you don't agree with it, email me and I will refer you to another coach. And I'm not going to use it as a sales opportunity for me to sell you into this is above that. If you need a coach and someone has asked you to sign some crazy ass agreement, reach out to me and I will refer you to someone supremely reputable who will not ask you to sign any nonsense like that. The other thing is this: if a coach tells you they made 6 or 7 figures, you know what to ask them? You can say, does that money come from your business? Or does that money come from support from a spouse or a partner or from another business? Because here's the trick. What's also been happening in this world, I think, to shame and embarrass people is you'll have a business owner, an entrepreneur, and they'll say, I have a 6-figure business or I have a 7-figure business. And what they won't tell you is their partner has money and their partner will give them money, and their partner funds their business. You have the right, if you're going to give someone money, I don't care if it's $500 or $5,000, you have the right to ask that person, what I see on Instagram, what I see on Facebook, all of your marketing, do you doing all of those things, your fancy photo shoots, your fancy video shoots, your fancy ebooks, your fancy, all of these things that you do, all of your graphics, your website, does that come from the proceeds of your business, or does someone, or have you received funding from some other source? You have a right to ask that. Because if they're trying to perpetrate a fraud and tell you that their business is making 6 figures or 7 figures, and they're making it seem like their fancy photo shoots and their graphics and all of this stuff and their video editing and all of this fancy stuff that they're doing is coming from the proceeds of their business, you have a right to ask. Because there's a lot of people out here, and I'm not going to name names, but everybody knows who I'm talking about. If you have an amazing video shoot in Italy to promote the launch of your latest program, and you don't tell people the money that I used to pay for this entire video crew and makeup and hair and nails and lighting and all of this other stuff does not come from my business, but instead comes from my husband, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Child, if you have a wealthy husband, good on you, fabulous. Do your thing. I am just saying that you can lie by omission, and people lie by omission in the online business space every single day. And it is up to us to ask the hard questions. It is up to us, because we know we can't trust them to do the right thing. So we have to now start to ask the right questions. And the right questions are, all this money that I see you talking about, is that all come from your business, or where does that money come from? If they're going to lie, make them lie to your face. Don't give them the grace of lying by omission. If you're going to lie to me, you're going to outright lie to me. You're not going to lie to me by omission.
Yes, Lena. Also, Lena, isn't there multiple ways that abundance shows up? It's not always 6 and 7 figures, right? The success of one's business isn't always measured by a numerical value, right?
It's impact. Does that.
Thank you.
One of the things that I tell my clients all the time, and it's even in my bio that you read, I teach women to build a business that loves them back. Because, honey, there is nothing worse than a business that you love, that you put so much heart and soul into, that doesn't love you back. And what I mean by that is a business that you feel like you have to work 16-hour days for, a business that you feel like you have to sell your soul for. That's not a business that loves you back.
That's right. That's right, Lena. So what I'm finding, and I'm being 100% honest and truthful here, this is my lived experience, or what I am seeing to my own eyes and hearing to my own ears.
Right.
Okay, here's what I want to say. What the innovators, or the ones who are shifting this paradigm that you speak of, are predominantly Black women and brown women in our online entrepreneurial spaces, right? My point in saying that is, Lena, what you're offering us is, it's so simplistic and so authentic and so real, right?
Yes.
It's just that you can't look away.
No.
And yet I find a lot of white entrepreneurs looking the other way, or not acknowledging where this disparity exists, where this gap is.
Right.
How do we keep going, building our businesses, showing up, collaborating as we are, and this gap seems to widen more? Do you know what I mean, Lena? Where do we go from here, from this point, and how do we continue to flag people down and bring them in, draw them into this kind of conversation? Or do we keep building and going in the trajectory that we're going?
I'm not a fan of excluding anybody, but I also believe that, you can't force people to reckon with their own demons. They got to be able to they've got to decide that they want to reckon with their own demons. to me, it is not a matter of saying, well, why can't you see this and why don't you see this? I think the prerogative of Black and brown, and as I said, women, I speak to women majority in my work. The prerogative of Black and brown women at this stage of the game is to figure out, how do we make sure that we are not disproportionately affected by the antics and by the nonsense? How do we self-preserve and preserve each other so that when Sonali says, you know what, I really, I decided to work with this person and they didn't honor it, they didn't deliver what they said they were going to, nobody is looking at Sonali like Sonali's a hater. Or when Lena says this person did this in our work together, nobody's looking at Lena like a hater, but Black and brown women are saying, okay, well, that's someone that I won't be giving my money to. And it's not about ganging up on people. People, that's spiritual bypassing nonsense. And I'm also not here for that. People will say, well, you're just being negative and you're just, it's just, you're bringing a negative vibe and it's low vibration. That's a lie. The truth is the truth, and it is what it is. And the truth will stand. So I believe that Black and brown women, our prerogative is to grow. If white women want to be part of the conversation that we're having, that's fine. But our thing is self-preservation and sisterhood preservation, in my opinion.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lena. If any of you are feeling this, let us know. You have a question for Lena, this is your chance. Ask away while we have this brilliant woman leader in our midst. This is your chance. Lena, I'm shaking with, I don't know what I'm shaking with. Is it with the excitement of what is to come?
Yeah.
And also the fear of leaving parts of me behind, right? There are a lot of things that I'm having to unlearn in this process, Lena, as most of us leaders are, right?
Yes.
So here's what I'm also sensing and feeling into is we're dismantling and building all at the same time.
Yep.
Can you speak to that part of us, Lena, that are having to unlearn and leave behind and still grow and show up for the sisterhood and for those that need us? How do we balance that, or how do we navigate that, Lena?
Part of the work that I do with women entrepreneurs, the very first stop on the train is getting them to understand who they are and know themselves. It's a process that I've developed called CEO DNA. And the reason that we do that is because they have to know who they are in order to stand in their truth. They have to know who they are. And as you say, Sonali, we are fixing the airplane while we're flying. And that's difficult to do. And what is required is for us to give up all the shoulds, and these are the things that we should do. And so-and-so says I should do it this way. I spoke with a woman yesterday who I know I can help her with her business and grow her business, for sure. But unfortunately, she was caught up in the cycle of tactics and not in the big picture. So she was, listening to this guru and then to that expert and then to this person and that person. And it's the tactics that get us that short-term win, and then we drop, and then it's just the short-term win, and then we drop. And so if we can see our way clear to understanding who we are as people, as leaders, our own leader, our own CEO DNA, we won't have room for anyone else's input. Once we love and embrace who we are, we won't have room for so-and-so to say, well, this is how you should do it, because you will know who you are and you will know how your energy flows. And you will say, well, listen, that works for Sonali and Goddess bless her, but that doesn't work for me. So I'm going to do it my way over here because this is my business that I'm running, and I want a business that loves me back, and I want Sonali to have a business that loves her back, and Tanya is going to have a business that loves her back, and James Olivia is going to have a business that loves her back. And everyone, if we would just do our own thing and not feel ashamed about doing our own thing, a lot of the foolishness that is perpetuated in this space just wouldn't even have room. Just wouldn't have room for it.
Yep.
Because we'd be all so busy doing our own individual thing. And that is why I always start my work with clients off with CEO DNA, because I want them to know this is who you are. I don't want you to build your business like I build my business. I don't want you to build your business like Tanya or James Olivia. I want you to build your business like you. And when you are doing you, there's no room for you to be anybody else. That's where it starts. Being comfortable in yourself and being comfortable with what you're bringing to the table, whether it's offerings or how you're positioning yourself or how you're marketing yourself. If we're comfortable in ourselves and we lead with that, we won't feel so compelled and tempted, quite frankly, to lead with nonsense that people think, will tell you, this is a good idea to say.
Yes. Kelly says, echoing what you said, Lena, just trusting your own self and intuition takes away so much power from those gurus. And that's the danger, right?
Yep.
Because now we're focusing back, we're bringing that awareness back into our own selves and to our own guidance system.
Absolutely. They don't like me. They don't like me at all. They've never invited me to their groups and to their events or anything like that, because they know I'm going to be the person to stand up in the room and say, but why are you telling people that when you know that's not true? I spoke with someone the other day and she says, I used to coach with this one very well-known male coach in the online business space. And she says, and he told me that there's only 3 types of businesses that actually make money. Who says that to somebody?
Right.
And if she had known, if she had had the power to say, exactly, Kelly, that's ridiculous. If she had had that power to say, no, that's not exactly true, and let me give you 5, 6, 7, 11 examples, then he would have been standing there looking stupid. And I'm the person that'll say, no, that's not true. Let me give you 5, 6, 7, 11 examples. And I'm saying that's what we all need to start doing. We need to start holding people accountable. When someone tells you something, make them prove it. If you make someone prove it, well, can you show me how that's happening in your business? How is that happening in your business? You're not asking anybody to give you their secret sauce. You're not asking anyone to disclose private information. They're the ones that's telling you they're a 6-figure business owner. They're the ones that's telling you they're a 7-figure business owner. All you're saying is prove it. And someone said earlier, I think it was maybe Jeanette, not quite sure who maybe it was Jeanette, I'm not sure, but somebody said, and is the money from affiliate sales or is that money coming from your company? Absolutely. Let's start asking some hard questions. Let's start asking, when you say team, do you mean full-time employee and FTE, or do you mean somebody that you pay occasionally to do work? Let's get into
it. Kelly actually mentioned that, so thank you for that.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Kelly. I'm trying to keep up with the chat and talk.
Yeah, I know you are. The chat box is on fire.
Exactly. Or team equals husband. And here's the thing. If the team is your husband, that's fine.
Then say it.
Great. Then just say it. Stop lying by omission. Somebody I know, she goes all over the world and she travels all over the world. And if you look at her Instagram, her Instagram will make you believe that she is going and traveling all over the world with the proceeds of her business. And I'm saying, homegirl, what you need to tell people is your fiance is a diplomat. Why don't you tell people that? That is how you're able to travel the world with your business. Exactly. Who's taking the picture? I just feel like all of this is such, and my thing is this: if you're gonna lie, at least to me, you better lie really, really well, because I can sniff it out. And it's such thinly veiled lies. It's not even real lies. It's like tissue paper lies. And the minute you start asking 1 or 2 key questions, all of it just unravels. It just unravels. It just does.
Yes. So One Global Family Foundation is asking a question. So how does a white woman who is soul-centric in a multicultural community navigate the potential labeling of cultural appropriation when presencing white privilege in business? Did you get that, Lena?
I did not get that. I need that question to
Maybe you
be.
can ask the, if you want to retry or ask that question in a different way. Yeah, I think I'm having a hard time understanding that too. But
Yes.
please, I want you heard. So, you know.
Soul-centric in a multicultural community navigate. Oh, I see. Got it. Got it. I think I got it. Okay. So probably what I would say is to that is I would say be very conscious of the words that you use, be very conscious of the images that you use, and by all means, either pay somebody, pay a Black or brown person to look at your materials and how you're positioning yourself and how you're marketing yourself and say, can this in any way be perceived as offensive, or is it offensive? Not just perceived as, but is it offensive in any way? Assuming that you'll be able to read the whiteness in your own materials if you're white, that's some privilege stuff. Right? Just don't do it. Find
Yes.
a trusted source to review your materials and pay them.
And if that question arises in your own self, that's a great red flag, right? That's a good marker for to check in with yourself.
Absolutely.
Nick Strack wants to know, Lena, how can I discern between something that might really work for my business and something I'm doing because I've been conditioned to think, quote, I should?
I love this question. And my answer is where is the impetus for the idea coming from? Is it coming from within you? Is it that divine spark? Is it divinely inspired? Or is it coming from without? Is someone in your ear and beating you in the head with this whole thing of, you need to do this, you need to do this, do this, do this, do this? Where's the impetus of that idea coming from? Where's it starting? Where is it originating, right? That is supremely important, because if it's coming from outside of you, it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means you may need to take a bit of a different lens on it and look at it a little bit more critically. Maybe say to yourself, is this a should? Am I feeling like I should do this thing? Or is this something that is actually good for me and an idea that I never thought about? There are 3 questions that I always ask, and my spiritual advisors taught me these questions, my elders. The first question that I ask is it true? The third question that I ask is it true for me? The second question that I ask is it true for me? And the third question that I ask is it true for me right now? Those 3 questions will always lead you home. So is it true? Is this really an opportunity, right? Or is it some nonsense, distraction, bait and switch masquerading as an opportunity, right? So is it true? Is it true for me? Is this my opportunity? Or maybe this is a gift for someone else that I need to pass on. Maybe this idea or this work is not mine to do, but maybe this work is for someone else to do, right? So is it for me? And is it for me right now, right? So then you bring it into the timing of, is this something that I need to focus on right now? Or is this a project for next year or the year after that? Those 3 questions will always lead you to if it's a should or if it's a, oh my God, yes, this is an opportunity for me.
Powerful. Thank you, Lena. And to those of you listening in, we have just a couple minutes left. So if you have a quick question you want answered from Lena, this is your chance. Lena, I'm so deeply moved and grateful for you for showing up with your wisdom and your time and your energy. You know, it's just such a joy to receive you and give you this seat, Lena. Is there anything else that's rested before we end this call? Is there anything else resting on your heart that you want to say? I'm not sure how we You got muted, Lena. I'm going to try to unmute you. How did that happen? We lost Lena's audio there for a second, so we're going to figure that out. But until we get her back, if there's any other questions you have for her, please let her know. Hang on one second, Lena. We're going to get you. I'm not sure why you're muted. That's crazy. All I know is there's a lot of energy in this call. And so there's lots of funny business going on or something. We're going to try to get Lena back here. But before we go, yes, there's so much gratitude to you coming through, Lena, on the call from people. Thank you so much. Lori says, thank you so much, both of you. Mercury retrograde. Yes, Jeanette, I think it is. I'm not sure how to unmute you, Lena. This is crazy. I should be able to control it. Yeah, I'm not understanding why. Lena, here's what I want you to do. I want you to disconnect and come back into the room because I want you to have the last word. So try that, okay? Thank you both. Jennifer says, yes. There's a whole bunch of thank yous. So I thank you all for being here because your presence here enables us to have these conversations, right? If not, it's just Lena and I having a chat over tea. So you being here shows your commitment to following the deeper way and reclaiming some of these, issues that we're ready to take back in the entrepreneurial world. Okay. I'm going to try to get you back here, Lena. I'm not sure why. I really want everyone to hear you. Here we go. Isn't that strange? It's not letting me unmute Lena. What is going on? Well, with that said, we're going to have to end this call. I'm so sorry, Lena. I'm not sure why I'm not able to unmute you. This is crazy. It's never happened before. But thank you all for being here. And listen to the replay. The replay will be, if One Global Family is still on here, please try to unmute Lena if you can, because I want her to have the chance to have the last word. So strange. I don't understand. Okay. Thank you all for being here. And we're going to have to do this again, Lena. That's what I think this means. So the replay will be up on the website within 24 hours. And I will hope to see you next time when I bring you another amazing guest speaker who is moving and shaking our online business world. Until then, thank you for being here. And may you have a beautiful rest of your day. And may peace be your journey.